I'm not sure what some of these companies are expecting. Okay. With a family of, let's say, 4 going out to eat, spending like $50, $60 in a drive-through, right? For basically trash food, like super trash food, like food that's going to make you hungry for the most part again in probably 3 hours. You're going to be hungry again. You're not going to be famished, but you're going to be hungry again. I would rather 100%, right, go to a different place where I can sit down and get a better quality of food for slightly less money. So does it surprise me that a lot of these chains that were kind of falling out of favor are now coming back into favor because of the price hikes at a lot of the fast food restaurants? Guys, I'm a big boy. I love fast food, right? McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, right? Hardee's or Carl's Jr. You get what I'm saying? Jack in the Box. I'm naming all the fast food places that fat people like, right? Five Guys. You get what I'm saying here? These are all great places. Not really. But you understand, hopefully. Like, I would rather spend that money at, like, an IHOP, an Applebee's, a Chili's, a Red Lobster, etc., right? Same money, better quality food. I'd rather that, right? But all right, let's see where this takes us, guys. Why Americans are going back to Chili's. This is a suggestion via Discord. But I pretty much just told you, most likely, right? But either way,
why are people going back to Chili's all of a sudden? I don't get it.
Chili's Grill and Bar is an anomaly in the restaurant space right now.
Like, the burgers are crazy.
Here you go. Here,
At locations that have been open for more than a year, Chili's fourth quarter sales increased nearly 15% compared to the same time period in 2023.
Okay.
In a segment that is seeing declining traffic and flat sales is a tremendous accomplishment. And I think it speaks to how much what they did really resonates with today's consumer.
Chili's parent company Brinker International reported its total revenue surpassing $4.4 billion in fiscal 2024.
Whoa.
That's an all-time high for the company.
While the brand has experienced some internet virality over the past few months, its current success didn't happen overnight.
We've actually been at this turnaround for now it's a little over 2 years. And we just started with the fundamentals of casual dining. So that sounds easy. It sounds kind of a little bit of motherhood and apple pie. The reality is it's really, really difficult to execute.
So how did Chili's do it? And can they keep it up?
To be honest, as long as everything else costs more, yeah. Or just as much, yeah. Again, I'm going to go ahead and go on the limb and say I think Chili's probably has the best, like, this type of, like, bar restaurant burger. I'm telling you. Interesting thing here is, so my wife is from Spain. And when the first time I brought her here to the United States of America, we went through all the restaurants, guys, basically all of the restaurants. And she, for some reason, landed on Chili's. There's something about Chili's that she just completely infatuated with, the loaded baked potato soup type thing, right? And it was just great for her. She loves it. Absolutely loves it. I will say, though, the burger, again, I got to tell you guys, if you've never had a burger from Chili's, you should do that. Immediately.
Brinker International owns Chili's and Maggiano's Little Italy.
Along with It's Just Wings.
Chili's accounts for more than 85% of its business.
I figured
its growth was pioneered by the founder of casual dining, Norman Brinker, who acquired the chain in 1983.
There's a long-term history with Chili's. It goes back to...
Guys, and their stock price is up too. Like, it's not up crazy, but it's up. It's probably up like $1 or so, but that's still enough if you have a lot of it, I'd say.
Norman Brinker.
It's basically double the price of Cheesecake Factory currently, along with a little less than half the stock price of Texas Roadhouse.
Days, a lot of pride, having fun at the restaurant, operations-led culture. It was very much a youthful brand that was differentiated from grill and bar peers.
The chain grew quickly, reaching a peak store count of over 1,300 U.S. locations by 2008. And Brinker International's annual revenue had exceeded $4 billion. The recession hit the restaurant sector hard, especially casual dining, as consumers increasingly opted to eat meals at home. Chili's has shut down stores almost every year since.
And that brand slowly lost its way often pursuing things that were outside the brand parameters, extending the menu too far, for example.
Why did you feel the need to narrow the offerings a bit?
Yeah, I think in legacy brands, it typically, the way to try to get short-term sales growth is you add more items, and that will work in the short term, but it makes it very difficult for the restaurant teams to be able to execute. Unless the business is growing fast enough where they can afford more labor, it's very hard to run that menu. And so that's what we have.
Guys, I'm gonna start up to 84.
Super valid. And guys, doesn't matter here. What I want to point out here is what you really want to do specifically as a restaurant owner is to minimize the menu as condensed as you possibly can. This is what we do. This is what we do very well. This is why you come here, type of thing, guys. Do burgers, ribs here. Burgers, rib steak, maybe like a pasta or something like that. They're fine. Just do
It
that.
would make our lives difficult on a Friday, Saturday night when we're really busy and each zone in the kitchen is trying to pump out food as fast as possible and try to make a quality dish. And sometimes that quality suffered.
There was also a misguided focus placed on takeout and delivery. After falling from its highs in 2007, Brinker's revenue remained relatively stagnant in the decade leading up to the pandemic.
And even the 3 years preceding COVID, the profitability of the business had gotten worse, partly because they were pursuing off-premise businesses. Ultimately, they took the money out of the advertising budget and put it into third-party delivery initiatives and even virtual brands to reach the consumer with the kitchens and the assets that they had. Well, those initiatives hurt the on-premise business.
Oh, yeah, of course it did.
That all changed when CEO Kevin Hochman
And now you're paying the middleman,
stepped in 2022.
making everything more expensive because now you may spend $60, $70 at Chili's. But if you order Chili's at home, by the time it gets to you, it's going to be like $110, right? So now you're making things more expensive. People are now ordering less. And now why now? Why would they go to your facility? You really want them to be there, to stay there longer so they buy more things, right? You kind of shot yourself in the foot here, bro, to be honest. I wish a lot of companies would stop doing the DoorDash thing, get rid of the middlemen. And if you want to do delivery, you have in-house delivery men or women, bro. That's what you need. In-house delivery exclusively. All right.
Brinker International's 2024 revenue surpassed the highs it saw in the early 2000s.
What's changed? Why are Americans going back to Chili's?
What's happening is, one, the actual experience is a whole lot better, but then two, our marketing team's done a great job of getting back into, they call the zeitgeist, or being relevant again.
We weren't always the top of the tier. And over the last 2 years, we've just seen such a turnaround. From the support we get from, our bosses, to the technology, the culinary innovations, all of those things. It made Chili's fun again.
Over the past
good.
2 fiscal years,
Very
Chili's
good.
has grown its average sales per restaurant by about $440,000. That's 14% more than what it was before. In the same time period, Hochman
Bro, are they franchising?
says the menu has shrunk more than 20%.
And typically you don't get rid of menu items because you're going to lose sales. We got rid of almost a quarter of our menu, right? And I'm happy to say that simplification has worked. We have grown the business. We have improved guest metrics, and that's why we're beating the industry pretty significantly right now.
In the 2024 fiscal year, Brinker International has invested $200 million in capital expenditure. That means it was investing heavily in repairs, maintenance, and improving its restaurants overall.
Brinker International's share price is up around 60% since the start of 2024. But despite strong sales, the company did miss Wall Street's expectations for earnings in its most recent quarter.
We went and put more labor into the restaurants, which is
$6.5 million? Oh, bro. I don't know, bro. That sounds heavy. That sounds heavy for a franchise. That sounds more than McDonald's. Like, McDonald's is expensive, right? Chick-fil-A is not, right? But are you serious? You cannot be charging $6.5 million for a franchise, bro. Hopefully that's not the case. I mean, I get it. That's including the infrastructure. That you guys are basically doing everything: pre-construction, construction costs, $2.5 million, site work, exterior signage, $150,000, furniture, fixtures, kitchen bar. Something tells me you guys are being overcharged for a lot of this. Okay. All right. I'm just gonna be honest. I don't know what your franchisees are saying about this deal here, but I think you're overcharged. I think you guys are being overcharged for a lot of the things you're pointing out here, bro. A lot of the things. Because the gap is actually, for the site work itself, it can go from $50,000 to $1 million. So something that doesn't sound right with the number. The numbers don't sound right, bro. I mean, I get it. Location, leveling, asphalting, painting lines. But again, you guys are being completely railroaded. It sounds like what you should do, on top of offering franchises and running these companies, that you should probably set up some type of like your own construction company that you specifically create and use for your enterprises, so you can control those costs, because that doesn't make any sense, bro.
Expensive. We've accelerated facility improvements that we probably would have done next year, and we'll pull them into this year. Wall Street didn't anticipate us making those additional investments to try to hold on to more of that traffic. That was the change in expectations versus what they were seeing and what we knew.
Traffic spiked by about 6% in Chili's most recent quarter, compared to the same time period of last year.
Hey, yo, Chili's, what?
Part of that is due to recent success with social media.
Spicy.
You hear
The food is
5%
great.
traffic growth, and you're like, is that much? Well, it doesn't happen throughout the day. It happens during peak time. So that could be, in some restaurants, it could be 20, 30% more guests coming in, right? And then spread across the day.
Spread out
5%.
throughout all of the.
So you really got to staff up if you don't want lines and you want them to have a good experience.
To keep up, Brinker has spent an additional $5 million on staffing. Another $15 to $20 million of labor is planned for 2025.
This is called the triple dipper. Chili's estimates that nearly 40% of its growth this past quarter came from these mozzarella sticks going viral on TikTok.
You cannot tell me that's the most insane cheese pull you've ever seen.
Like, pretty girl, okay? But you're talking with food in your mouth. That instantly makes you like at least a negative 27 million.
Every time a customer orders that, I'm like, oh, you saw it on TikTok? And they're like, yeah. It's hilarious.
Within a week, what we were ordering in order to fulfill those orders tripled in some restaurants, probably even more so. We were bringing in so many mozzarella planks that it was hard to store them all. But you didn't have to, because they were going out just as quickly as they were coming in.
The chain estimates that the other 60% of sales growth came from its $10.99 Big Smasher meal, meaning it's capitalizing on one of the most important consumer pain points at the current time.
Price.
Value.
Yep. That's smart.
The inflation rate of limited service dining, think food you order at the counter, has outpaced that of sit-down restaurants for all of 2023 and even the first quarter of 2024. And Chili's saw an opportunity precisely there.
How is this Chili's 3 for me only $10.99 when fast food is so expensive?
It could be because we don't have to pay for any mascots.
Certainly, they've had decent success over the last couple of years. But this really now has resonated with consumers in a way that I haven't seen a full service promotion resonate in quite some time.
We're a nostalgic brand that brings people in, and they've leaned into that, and they've leaned into the socials, they've leaned into the advertising, and their innovations, their investments are working. I mean, our traffic is up, our sales are up.
Brinker spent $14 million more on advertising in its fiscal fourth quarter of 2024 compared to the same time last year. Applebee's has pushed a similar strategy, but with less success. Its same-store sales have been in the negative every...
Bro, Applebee's versus Chili's, that's not even really much of a competition, bro. I mean, Applebee's has like the spinach dip. I think that's basically what they have. Their burgers are generally not amazing. Everything is basically fried. That's not the move anymore, bro. And one time I used to love Applebee's. And then I had Chili's. Then I was just like, man, there's something wrong with this. I like Old Charlie's also.
Every quarter over the past year, while Chili's have been in the positive.
You order DoorDash nowadays or, delivery, and you might pay $17, $18 for a value meal of sorts from a fast food place, and you're not getting a fraction of what we're offering at Chili's.
Right.
As casual dining is marketing itself as an alternative to fast food, even CEO of Darden Restaurants, which owns chains like Olive Garden and Longhorn Steakhouse, said certain casual dining chains are taking customers from fast food competitors.
Still, though, from a consumer spending perspective, over the past decade, limited service spending has increased as a percentage of overall sales, while full service dining has decreased.
Limited service, which includes fast food and fast casual, i.e. upscale fast food, a little bit higher experience, but we bucket it all together in limited service, has outperformed. Traffic has been good. It's slowed as everything else has.
Fast food chains are more exposed to the lower income consumer, who have pulled back with certain discretionary spending.
Casual dining has more of a percentage of consumers that are over 100,000 in income. And that exposure, that relative exposure has been good for them if they have the right value.
However, when comparing a chain like Chili's to McDonald's, the scale of the companies must be put into context. Last year, Chili's revenue was around $3.5 billion.
Yeah,
McDonald's revenue was over $25 billion.
Right.
Double-digit sales growth is simply much harder to...
Is that international, though? Because, I mean, if they're doing international numbers in that sum, then that makes sense.
come by when you're that big. Plus, the reality is that consumers who frequent fast food chains versus casual dining chains are often coming from different income levels.
Because the interest rates are higher, the wealth effects are less, the long-term real wage declines, all hurt the under 50,000 cohort. And unfortunately for McDonald's, for example, they have to deal with that way more than Chili's. In addition to the fact that Chili's has played much better in the value realm. In fact, quite astutely, Kevin Hochman and team have marketed to that relative value, even versus fast food.
The real test for Chili's will be sustaining this recent growth for the long haul. Customers need to not only be coming back, but they need to be spending more too.
Full service is not only the traffic conundrum, getting people in the seats, but also then generating margin. And a lot of the higher margin items that are generated by casual dining, alcohol, desserts, appetizers, have been the areas that consumers have cut back on.
That's important because restaurants often rely on deals to bring people in the door and get them spending on other things. Value offerings themselves typically aren't generating high margins.
At what point does that...
Wait, I mean, I get it. It's not as high as something else, but are you still making 3 times whatever you paid for it? I mean, I get it. It's not like a slice of pie that you're charging $10 for when it only costs you 25 cents. Right, I get that, but just keep this in mind here, bro. You're still making a profit.
But
is that enough to keep the
profit though? Are you concerned about that?
Not really.
Long term. Well, certainly you have to be concerned with that because ultimately we have shareholders and we have a great rate of return. One of the things I'm proud of the team has been able to do is we have what's called a barbell strategy. So as long as we have items that we can offer for guests that want something a little bit more versus some guests that just want a hot price point, and we keep that mix in balance, right? We're going to continue to grow profitability.
Yeah, and that's what you're doing. And then, that's exactly what they're doing, and they're doing it great. Again, just to finalize this before we go ahead and head out, everything that I pretty much thought, it seems to be pretty accurate, guys. I like going to these places specifically because I don't see the value in going to McDonald's like that. I haven't actually gone to McDonald's in probably a year, right? I would choose to go to basically anywhere else except for McDonald's, just based off of the quality of food versus the price point of said food. Right? But either way, listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day. Thoroughly. Guys, before we go, are you guys subscribed to the other channels? Logical Movie Reviews with Mr. L. Boyd along with Mr. L. Boyd Music. Both are found in the description. Check it out.